James Helder, IFL TV, MTK Global. I'm in Oldingham today, just outside Basingstoke. With me, I'm joined by Matt Goddard. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very well. It's been a little while since we caught up, probably 5 or 6 years, to say the least. What's been happening?
Just, well, obviously, I had to retire from boxing, medical reasons, just some problems with my eyes. Getting medical clearance just wasn't really possible for me anymore. So, from there, I had 7 fights unbeaten, and when I had to stop, I had little time to think about what I was going to do, and decided to just commit fully to training people, personal training. I'm fully qualified, and also just boxing coaching. So I do plenty of boxing coaching on a day-to-day basis with people at my gym here in Oldham.
Let's just rewind back to 2014.
About that, yeah.
You won your 7th professional contest, went to 7-0 undefeated as a professional. 2 of those wins coming by stoppage. What was the initial, how did you find out the case there may be an issue with you boxing?
So basically, it was actually prior to my last fight. So I had my fight lined up with Eric Malik, and I had some damage to the tissue of my eyelid, and it basically just through the course of training and sparring used to swell up. And to pass my medicals, to get my medical clearance, I had to go through fucking all sorts. I had to go through all sorts of bother because I'm badly short-sighted anyway. So once I started having problems with my eyes, it meant I couldn't basically go through this process called orthokeratology, which is where you wear lenses while you sleep, and they correct your vision. When you take them out in the morning, you can see fine. And it basically just meant I couldn't put those lenses in anymore. So I had to stop, and I had my last fight anyway, and I don't think that did it any favours, to be fair, because for a few weeks afterwards I was getting a lot of eye pain, and I went to see a specialist about it, and he just said that the tissue itself is damaged, and that the swelling's likely to be a recurring thing, and that it could get damaged further. So pretty much recommended that keep boxing was a bad idea, essentially. And then obviously getting medical clearance without being able to pass my vision tests anyway was nigh on impossible. So at the time it was depressing. Like I felt really, really down about it. Not so much necessarily missing out on all of the training and things, but I've gotten incredibly close and had an even closer relationship with my trainer, Trevor Francis, having trained with him from 11 years old. So I was with him literally 11 to 24, whatever it was, when I stopped fighting. And I went from seeing him 10 to 15 hours a week to suddenly just not seeing him anymore. So that was probably the biggest downer of it, and that sort of got me down for a while. I kept up my training and everything, but silver linings, I moved into this, and it's been a big success in the area. So you got to be thankful for things, haven't you?
Let's fast forward to 2018. You're now here in your own gym, Matt Goddard Fitness.
Yeah, man.
Taking boxing to the people. I know you've got a thriving business here in Oldingham. So was that your initial reaction then? How did you refocus your energies into wanting to set up the gym to get into this point you're at now?
Well, I was here already, just using the space for some training for myself and the odd client. But it's a funny story, actually. I imagine it's happened a fair few times with youngsters. But after I stopped boxing, obviously you got to make money, ain't you? So I started working with my dad, who's a bricklayer, and I was labouring for him. Long days and all that, and it was great in the summer. It wasn't too bad. I didn't mind it. Getting a tan and all that. It's good fun, isn't it? But come around to the winter, and mate, had the Christmas break, come back, and it was about the 4th or 5th of January, and we were working at the top of this hill. I was on the gable lift of a 3-story house, loading blocks up, and I just thought, I don't need to be doing this. I said to him there and then, I'm not coming back in tomorrow, Dad. And he said, I wondered how long it'd take you to figure this out, get down the gym and get working. So that was it. From there on out, I just started booking people in. I had plenty of interest. I was already running class in the evening, so it gave me the opportunity to do them in the daytime as well. And it's flown off from there, mate.
Did you ever vision that you'd be doing anything different other than boxing? As I know you spent so long since you was 11 years old dedicated to the sport. Did you ever vision a life away from fighting?
All through school, I was told by teachers that dreaming of being a professional boxer and saying when they asked me, what are you going to do with your future? I was always adamant I'm going to be a professional boxer. And they said, but you can't bank on that. And I was absolutely 100% certain that was definitely what I was going to do. There was no doubt about it in my mind, and I knew that from then on. From 12, 13 years old, seeing boxers in the gym, training with Trevor all the time, hearing all his stories. It was all I wanted to do. So I'm ambitious. I've always been ambitious, and I always plan to use my gains from boxing and what I learned in boxing and the money hopefully I was going to make to invest in businesses, but never necessarily anything so personal in terms of the amount I work. I'm here for long days every day, and I love it. I absolutely love it, but obviously it's hard to envisage yourself doing that kind of thing when you're 14, 15 years old. All I was thinking about was boxing. Boom, boxing all the time. Used to come home from school, go for a run, chill out for a couple of hours, down the boxing gym for 2-3 hours where all my friends are out playing football, partying, all that stuff. I didn't do none of that, and I don't regret it at all. It was the perfect thing for me, and things always work out, don't they? Life finds a way.
So you're here 4 or 5 days a week now, training people all the time. Have you any aspirations or any intent on training fighters yourself?
I do, actually, very much so. But it's a long game for me. I want to. I look at guys in the boxing industry that I admire. People like coaches like Tunde Ajayi, who trains Anthony Yard. Guys like Robert Garcia, Abel Sanchez. People that train fighters with a long game in mind, with a process in mind, and they develop them, they build them, and they teach them. And actually, obviously, the sad passing of Brendan Ingle, somebody like that, that's what I aspire to do, work with people from a young age and do what Trevor did with me, teach them the basics of boxing, teach them the skills of boxing so they understand what they're doing rather than just being able to do it. And I would love to get into that massively. And I think there's a huge gap in the British boxing market actually for trainers now with more than just knowledge of aggression and attack and a very basic way of defence. I think there's very few trainers in this country that cover the skills of footwork and lateral movement and head movement and all of these things. And I know within the next 20, 30 years, someone I'm training is going to be there at the top level, showing all them skills that we want to develop, for sure, 100%.
Is that the longevity of the gym then? Is that the plan to keep striving until you can turn the gym into a full-time boxing gym? Or what's the ethos behind it?
That would be ideal. Ideally, I'd like to win the lottery and then just be able to train people for boxing. Then less about work then and more about enjoyment. Because I love my work and it's a great job, but for me, coaching boxing is where my real love is at and where my interest in the sport is at. So I suppose yes. I wouldn't necessarily like to be here for the rest of my life in this room, but 100% see myself with a slightly more. I love this gym. It's incredible. It's 6 years of hard work, but size-wise and capability to get a ring in here, all of that kind of stuff is not necessarily viable. So in the future, I'd love to get my own space with all of that kind of stuff and work more on the boxing side of things. I work now already with some young guys that have got an awful lot of potential and they're dedicated. So I'd love to see how they sort of come through once they've been here for 2-3 years, where they're at and what they're looking to do, for sure. Yeah. You
boxed in the lightweight division. Yeah. What do you think of the lightweight division currently on the world scene?
It's incredible. I think super feather, lightweight and light welters, because you're similar in size generally, you see these guys, there's very few fighters that exceed those kind of weight parameters. You see kind of super feather up to maybe welter and then welter upwards and beyond. And I think the guys that you've got in that mix, that sort of selection of weights there, it's a very special place in boxing right now. I think guys like Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia, Terence Crawford, even some of the sort of lesser known fighters that are coming through, and I mean guys like Javonta and Tevin Farmer, people with great boxing ability and different styles that match against each other really well and make for exciting fights. I mean, it's an exciting time to be a boxing fan and be even involved in them kind of things. You know, it's amazing. Yeah.
Do you think these guys will fight each other? Do you think the names you mentioned, the likes of Tevin Farmer, likes of Javante Davis, do you think these fights will happen?
I think the Farmer's boxing Billy Dibb next. That's a tough fight actually, and I think if he comes through that, they'll make the Davis fight for sure, because there was a load of beef on Instagram a while back, quite hefty, went on for a while. I mean, it was boring, but you know, they're building up these kind of things, and that would be a great fight. I think Davis beats him, he stops him late, but Farmer's head movement and footwork makes him a bit of an animal actually.
Lomachenko just had a shoulder operation.
Yeah.
So that probably puts the likes of Lomachenko, Garcia a little bit further back.
Yeah, but I've seen talk of all kinds of things actually, because prior to that, the shoulder injury announcement, they were talking about making the Mikey Garcia fight. So, I mean, even if it is, it's a huge fight. That's just about the best fight in the world right now. I think in any division, there's not many fights that match that for sheer quality of the two fighters involved and the potential for different outcomes in the fight. You know, you've got two guys there who are exceptional boxers. One who's probably slightly heavier-handed, significantly heavier-handed with Mikey Garcia, but maybe not quite as mobile. But does he need to be? That's the real question. You know, is he going to catch him being more settled and being more composed about it? I mean, I think that's the best fight in the world right now for me, Lomachenko Garcia, and I'm happy to wait for it.
Heavyweight division seems to be catching fire. We've seen Tyson Fury set to return.
Can't wait.
Regarding news, waiting on what's happening with Anthony Joshua and his next opponent. We know the Deontay Wilder stuff's been quite relevant. What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
I'm going to cut it down into a very, very simple statement. Now, I'm an Anthony Joshua fan. I think he's a very, very good boxer. And for me, there's 3 fighters in the heavyweight division, and only 3, that are worth genuine interest in terms of their being exceptional. I think Anthony Joshua loses to both. But that's a bold statement. I know I'm going to get hated for that. But the reason being, I think Anthony Joshua dominates Wilder, absolutely dominates him, and then gets caught with big shots. Because for me, Wilder is what I would call an emergency puncher. When he's in trouble, that's when he's the most dangerous. And Joshua tends to come in with high volume of punches when he's got a guy hurt. And I just don't think you can afford to do that against Wilder, because he's going to come straight over the top with all sorts of windmilling, crazy shots that no one's ever seen before in the history of boxing, that it doesn't matter what they look like because they get the job done. And when he catches Joshua, he's not going to let him off. When Klitschko caught Joshua, he had a slow 3-4 rounds and got punished for it. And mate, all respect to Joshua, he smashed that. Now, the other statement I'm going to make is, I mean, I'm going to get mixed reviews for this, but Fury beats them both. I mean, as a character, he's brilliant for boxing. He's great to have around. He obviously shows the humanity of fighters and the things they go through with, you know, mental health and all that kind of stuff. And he's doing great things talking about that. But talking about sheer boxing ability, the other two don't compare to him even remotely. His footwork, his head movement, his eccentric nature, his ability to be unpredictable and varied and do things that heavyweights just don't do in this day and age. And at such a size as well. I mean, people say he lacks power, and obviously his knockout record shows that he lacks power. But another thing that's going to get me in a bit of trouble here is that I don't think Anthony Joshua hits as hard as everyone makes out. I think Anthony Joshua is a very powerful puncher, but if you compare the likes of his stoppages to someone, for example, like George Foreman, who, when you see them knockouts, they're guys that are asleep. You know what I mean? He hits them when they're asleep. You watch Joshua's knockout reel, and most of the time he wobbles a guy and then finishes him, the ref jumps in. Now, that's not to say that he's not a good puncher, because if he caught you, man, it would hurt. But I think Fury is similar to that, just in a more fluid style. He'll land 20 punches on you, and you'll be stood there wondering what on earth's happened when he stood behind you laughing at you. And he obviously hurts enough to deter people, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. If he can force someone to change their style to try and adapt to what he's capable of, he's always got them working to his rhythm, to his routine, and to his speed and abilities, and that's why, for me, he beats all of them. I don't think Wilder lands a punch on him, and I think Joshua's jab, if he could nullify the jab, he beats him easy.
Fury set for his return against Sefa. Do you see Fury being able to go back and capture the belts that he was taken away from him?
I hope so. It's just whether or not they make them fights. It's where the money's to be gained. That's the reality of it. And this is something that I tell everyone that says I want to be a boxer. All that matters in boxing is money, and that's all that's ever mattered in boxing to everyone but the fighters. Now, as a boxer, you want to box the best, you want to fight the best, you want to challenge yourself, you want to do the best you can and find out your own limits. Obviously, everyone else in boxing wants to make sure they're making a decent wedge out of it and doing well, including quite a lot of trainers, a lot of promoters, a lot of managers. And that's understandable. It's a business. Everyone's trying to make a living. And a lot of the time it works out well for fighters. A lot of the time it doesn't. But if they can make it so that the Fury-Joshua fight makes a lot of money for both of them, it will happen. If they can't agree the terms, it wouldn't surprise me if it never happened, to be honest.
Well, Boxing Super Series, we saw that George Groves is going to be making the final.
Yeah.
Interesting to see that they've sort of made the dates work around Groves.
Yeah, makes sense.
As we hoped that would be the case. What are your thoughts on that situation?
I mean, anything less would have been an insult to the other fighters in it. I mean, the talk of bringing Eubank Jr. back into it, I like Eubank Jr. As a fighter. I enjoy watching him box, but how can you bring a guy back into a competition that's already lost, that he's already lost in? It just doesn't make sense to me. And it would be an insult to the other fighters that lost just because he's a bigger draw and the rematch with, and the fight with Callum Smith would make more money. Again, it's business. But I'm actually very pleased to see that the Boxing Super Series decided to be sensible about it and just be patient, because people are still going to tune in. No one cares if it's 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line. Obviously, they got to fiddle about with their dates, but no one. As a boxing fan, you don't care if you got to wait 6 months for a fight. If anything, it builds the anticipation.
That's the fight that you feel the people wanted as well.
100%, yeah, 100%.
Gassiev Usyk, thoughts on that? Exciting?
Oh mate, that's a tough one. You know, I think Usyk wins, but that's a tough one to call, man. Watching them in the semis is they're exceptional boxers. I think Usyk's just slightly more well-rounded in terms of his all-round ability, his defensive skills, and his lateral movement. I think that's probably going to pay off for him. And he's obviously got the power as well, which helps for sure. How
can you not love Gassiev? What a fighter he is! Literally,
yeah. I love this. I love this Boxing Super Series, and I know the is it Bantams coming up with
yes.
Zolani Teti and Naya Inoue and oh my God, Ryan Burnett. Like that's how boxing should be. To me, there's one person who is a champion of a weight, and in most weights it's fairly clear who that guy is, even if they haven't boxed everyone. And I think I understand why there's so many belts, and I understand why there's so many organisations. Again, it comes down to money, to giving fighters an opportunity to fight for something they've always dreamed of. But everyone wants the divisions unified. As boxing fans, you want to see one person at the top, and then you want to see the guys that challenge him, that fight the other guys to get to the opportunity to challenge him. And for me, this series does that. It gives you the opportunity to see all of the fighters you want to see fight each other, and they've got no excuses and no way to get out of it. And I love it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant for boxing and brilliant for boxing fans.
Listen, Matt, it's great to get you back on the channel. Before we go, can you give the people some information if anyone sort of around this sort of area wants to come down to the gym and do some sessions with yourself, whatever the case may be?
So if you're in Oldham, Basingstoke, anywhere in Hampshire, all you got to do is get in contact with me on Instagram, Matt Goddard Fitness, on Twitter at mgoddardboxing or mgoddardfitness. Too many pages. Facebook, Matt Goddard Fitness. I'm on all the social media. Check me out. Give me a message, comment on a video, whatever it is, and we can get something sorted for sure. Boxing, coaching, personal training, whatever it is. Link me up, give me a follow my videos, and just, check me out.
Thank you very much for coming to RFL TV. Great to get you back on the channel, champ.
Thanks,
It's
mate.
been a few years in the waiting, and we look forward to catching you soon.
Thank you for coming down, mate. I appreciate it. It's good to have a chat. Cheers.